Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some news updates coming out from Ukraine to share with you. We're going to be talking about Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine. That's him right there in the photo for today's video, as we've got two clips to show you from X that Volodymyr Zelenskyy has come out and confirmed that North Korea has sent troops to support Russia's military in their war against Ukraine. Now, this is big news. Looks like Volodymyr Zelenskyy has officially confirmed this, as we've been hearing numerous reports that North Korean troops were supposedly going to be sent over to Ukraine very soon, and could be even on the front lines or operating and fighting against Ukraine in the coming months, especially by the end of the year, is what we kept hearing. And then we also heard that some North Korean engineers are on the ground already inside Ukraine, firing the KN-23 ballistic missile launchers that are targeting sites all over Ukraine, and sometimes killing innocent civilians as well. So we've got lots of updates to go over here today. We're going to be discussing mostly about North Korea, and then I have a few updates in regards to the Kursk region and some other developments that are happening inside of Ukraine. So let me just go ahead and jump into a few of these updates here to start sharing some of this news with you. We have this first report from Anton Yurishenko, the inclusion of North Korea into the war, President Zelenskyy. Among the main issues, the reports of the intelligence agencies, the Foreign Intelligence Service and the GUR, on the intentions of the Russians for the fall through the winter. Everything is quite detailed, practically the inclusion of North Korea in the war, the president said in an evening address. He had previously said that Moscow and Pyongyang had agreed on the transfer of people. Okay, so yesterday, Volodymyr Zelenskyy was coming out and saying that Russia and North Korea had agreed on transferring people over to Ukraine, or at least over to Russia, to train with them. And he never mentioned anything about North Korean troops. Well, now he's coming out and saying that the inclusion of North Korea into the war, okay, this would obviously mean North Korean troops operating against Ukraine. Okay, so this is a very big update. This is only a 17-second clip of him talking, but read the subtitles down here based on the information that I just showed you guys. And he's going to mention that they have intelligence that states that the North Koreans are now involved into this war. So go ahead and take a look.
Провів ставку. Кілька питань. Серед головного була доповідь розвідок Служби зовнішньої розвідки та ГУР щодо намірів росіян на осінь-зиму. Все доволі детально, фактично включення у війну Північної Кореї. Провів ставку.
Okay, so if you notice at one part in here he mentions, we'll zoom in, or we'll go a little bit fast forward here. It says right here, okay, the Foreign Intelligence Service and the GUR on the intentions of the Russians for the fall through the winter, right? And then he goes on to say, everything is quite detailed, practically the inclusion of North Korea in the war. So what he's kind of saying there, based on what I'm getting, is by this fall, which is pretty much right around the corner, and then going into the winter, we could be seeing North Korea more heavily involved. Now, what's been reported is that if North Korea gets more heavily involved in this war and supports Russia with their fight inside of Ukraine, they could essentially free up a lot of the Russian reserves on the back end of the front line, which would allow many of the Russian reservists to move to the front line and assist with operations and launch another offensive, push deeper into Ukraine, take more territory over it. It would be more difficult for Ukraine to fight this war if they had to go up against, several thousand more Russian troops that all of a sudden join the front line. So a lot of people are worried right now that Ukraine could struggle to hold the front line, and possibly the front line could even break, depending on how many troops North Korea sends over to support Russia in their war effort. Okay, so this was a clip from Volodymyr Zelenskyy in his morning address inside of Kiev this morning. Okay, so also I want to show you guys this clip from Yasmina. President Zelenskyy says that North Korea has sent troops to support Russian military. We see an increasing alliance between Russia and regimes like North Korea. This is no longer just about transferring weapons. It is actually about transferring people from North Korea to the occupying military forces. Okay, so this is what he stated yesterday. He said it was about transferring people, and that's what he's going to say in this message here. Obviously, in such circumstances, our relations with partners need to develop further. The front line needs more support. When we talk about giving Ukraine greater long-range capabilities and more decisive supplies for our forces, it's not just a list of military equipment. It's about increasing the pressure on the aggressor, pressure that will be stronger than what Russia can handle, and it's about preventing an even larger war. Okay, so that's basically what he's going to state here in this message. So go ahead and pay attention to what Volodymyr Zelenskyy has to say and read the subtitles, okay?
Бачимо, що нарощується союзництво між Росією і такими режимами, як у Північній Кореї. Це вже не просто про передачу зброї, це фактично про передачу людей з Північної Кореї до військових сил окупанта. Очевидно, що в таких умовах наші відносини з партнерами потребують розвитку. Фронт потребує більшої підтримки. Коли ми говоримо про більшу далекобійність для України та більш рішуче постачання для наших сил, це не просто перелік військових засобів. Це про збільшення тиску на агресора, який буде для Росії сильнішим, ніж вони можуть витримати. І це про недопущення більшої війни. Ми бачимо, що
Okay, so obviously he's talking about several things here, right? He's talking about the increasing alliance between Russia and North Korea. And then he mentions right here about transferring weapons, that it's no longer about weapons just being transferred. This is about people being transferred, which obviously what he means now is North Korean troops. And then he mentions that they need more support on the front line. And then also the fact that they need longer range capabilities to strike inside of Russia, which is something he's been calling for a long time now, to put pressure on Russia to try to also end this war. And obviously things are getting pretty crazy over here, and it definitely seems like even Volodymyr Zelenskyy appears to be worried about the front line as well, as many reports have been coming out over the last 24 to 48 hours that Ukraine could struggle on the front line if a lot of these troops are freed up on the back end of the operations that Russia is carrying out inside of eastern Ukraine. And we could be seeing a lot of Russian forces showing up to the front line, which could potentially overwhelm the Ukrainians, and they could have big problems if that front line breaks. So definitely a lot of things to be worried about. And if you also notice, one thing he mentioned in here, when he says that the front line needs more support, it makes you wonder if, what else could they really give Ukraine aside from weapons. Obviously, he's been calling for weapons for a very long time, but it makes you wonder if at some point NATO could potentially get involved here. There are some nations like Lithuania, for example, some of the Baltic nations have stated that if the front line were to break, that they would go and join with Ukraine and back them up. I think even France may have said that, if I'm not mistaken, at some point. So who knows if maybe some NATO nations could start to send troops in there to back them if they really start to crumble on the front line. But anything could really happen here in this war. So let's move on to our next update. Also from Max 24, a base of mercenaries from the DPRK, which is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, was discovered near Sartana in Donetsk region, where artillery training takes place, Ukrainian partisan movement SROK reported. So this is a report that came out that said down near in Mariupol, which is right here, there's a town over here called Sartana, and apparently a base of mercenaries from North Korea could be potentially training over here, doing artillery training. So obviously this is more proof now that we continue to hear there is North Korean troops inside of Ukraine already right now, which is pretty insane. And then we also had that report just about a week ago that 6 North Korean officers were killed in some sort of strike on eastern Ukraine, and there was also like 3 others that were wounded. And I think in total there was like 20 soldiers. There was probably some Russian soldiers as well that were killed in that attack. So this was the original report that came out from the Kiev Post, as partisans report North Korean troops in training area near Mariupol. A Ukrainian partisan group said on Sunday it had spotted North Korean personnel in military training areas in the occupied Donetsk region. So pretty crazy. Obviously, these are Ukrainian partisan groups that are reporting this. And if this happens to be true, yeah, that means there's definitely probably hundreds, maybe even thousands, who knows, of North Korean troops already operating inside of Ukraine and actively training very close to the front lines. Okay, so definitely a very scary situation for Ukraine. Also, we had this report from Jurgen Nodit. North Korea sends soldiers 7,000 kilometers to slaughter Ukrainians on Putin's orders. The NATO area is only a few kilometers away from Ukraine. So he showed us this map here that shows 7,000 kilometers away the North Koreans are traveling from, all the way over to eastern Ukraine, just to fight on behalf of Russia. Isn't that pretty crazy to think about? That these soldiers are going so far away to fight in this war alongside Russia as they come from North Korea. Okay, so also from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, I wanted to share this update that came out from him today. Today, I held another meeting. Staff Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky reported on the operational situation. Active engagements are ongoing along the entire front, with particularly fierce battles unfolding in Pokrovsk and Kurakhov directions. For 5 days now, the Russians have been trying to break through our defense in the Kursk region. Our guys are standing firm and counterattacking. The Defense Intelligence of Ukraine and the Foreign Intelligence Service provided in-depth analysis of who is helping Russia in its war of aggression against Ukraine militarily, economically, and politically, both overtly and covertly. We discussed the necessary steps for us and our partners to take in order to weaken these criminal alliances. The Ministry of Defense also presented a report on contracts for both the current and upcoming periods, in particular, through our partners' assistance, as well as on investments by our key partners in Ukraine's defense and industrial complex. So it makes you wonder. I reported to you guys yesterday that supposedly North Korea is accusing South Korea of flying drones over their territory, dropping propaganda leaflets, criticizing Kim Jong-un and his regime. And it makes you wonder if maybe a war is going to potentially break out over there to distract from sending troops over to Ukraine. It was just something that I thought about. Hopefully we don't see a war break out on the Korean Peninsula, but it looks highly likely that that could be the case. And it makes you wonder if maybe that was some sort of deliberate intention to try to stoke a war or some sort of limited conflict between North Korea and South Korea, so maybe they don't start sending a bunch of their troops over to Ukraine, or who knows what's going on over there. Definitely could be something on the back end that's going on over there. But for sure, yeah, what we continue to hear, even in this statement right here, is that there's definitely some alliances, like with North Korea and Russia right now, where they are starting to send some of their troops over there, okay, to Ukraine. So also a quick update coming from the Kursk region of Russia from Emil Kastelhelmy. Assessment of the situation in Kursk direction. In the last few days, the Russians have continued successful attacks against the western flank of the Ukrainian-controlled area in Kursk. The Ukrainian defenses were breached and Russian troops were able to push relatively deep. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this map because this map gives us a pretty good bird's eye view of the current situation over here with Ukraine inside of the Kursk region. And just weeks ago, we reported that Ukraine was getting very close to the Glushkovky district. That's when they opened up these two other offensives. Doesn't look like they've really moved much in these areas. They've moved a little bit, but not too much. And then we haven't really heard much from these second offensives that were open. And then all of a sudden, that's when Russia started to launch their counterattacks in this area and push Ukraine back all the way to here. Okay, so this blue represents what Ukraine is currently holding right now, most likely. And then also the light blue or the shaded gray area is where Ukraine was at before. So they've gotten pushed back quite a bit. And it looks like almost about half of the territory that they were controlling at one point has been nearly lost. Okay, so I have been hearing that in this area right here, where Russia recently launched another offensive, is that the Ukrainians started to push back and take over some of the towns that were previously lost here in the last like 3 days. So we have been hearing of some areas being regained by the Ukrainians, but if you notice, a good amount of their offensive has been taken away from these counterattacks from the Russians. So I thought I would share this map with you. We'll see if Ukraine is able to regain these territories, but it looks like right now they're on the defensive, trying to stop many of these attacks from the Russians, okay? So finally, just a couple more things to share with you here from the Kiev Post. Russian Telegram channels are reporting on a drone attack in the Moscow region. So apparently multiple Telegram channels from the Russians were coming out earlier this morning and stating that there was lots of drones heading their way, primarily to the Moscow region. I think even the Kaluga region was coming under attack. And I found this other report here from Max24, and it has a picture of some of the Russian Telegram channels reporting UAV drone attacks. It says right here, Moscow region from the Kaluga region, attention to UAVs by 2200 hours. And then also here another swarm of UAVs, Suzemka, if I'm pronouncing that right, one from after another. And it says here many more UAVs, Suzemka. So I wasn't hearing anything else in regards to what's being attacked up here in the Moscow region or even the Kaluga region, which I believe is very close to the Moscow region. So it looks like Moscow region coming under attack by UAV drones tonight inside of Russia. So I'm not sure if we're going to be hearing pretty soon that another major ammo depot was exploding or something like that. Looks like something is coming under attack inside of Russia to report on. As soon as I get information on that, I'll definitely share that with you guys. But just a quick update coming out from Ukraine to let you guys know that looks like Volodymyr Zelenskyy is aware of North Korean troops inside of Ukraine, and now he's coming out and confirming that. So just wanted to share some of the latest that I had coming out from Ukraine and Russia to share with you. So I hope you got something out of this quick update. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.